props here on PrizePicks for Saturday, October 26th. You guys, college football Saturday. I think this is week 9 already. Pretty crazy how quickly time flies, you guys. Before I get started, link in the description below. Hop into the Discord. You can use promo code TUFF to get 20% off your first month in the Discord. It's only $9.30 per month normally. So again, with that 20% off, it's even cheaper. 31 cents per day, you guys, is what it comes down to per month. It's where I post all the plays I'm making on PrizePicks. We have other cappers in there as well. Super positive community overall. Everyone in the Discord is trying to help each other cash. Also want to mention I'm not a gambling expert and this is not financial advice. It simply just plays I'm personally looking at making. Hopefully giving you guys some insight and analysis to make your own player prop decisions here. Again, no one's pressing submit on those parlays other than yourselves. But let's get right into it, you guys. 2 college football player props Saturday, October 26th. Let's get into it. So the first play I'm looking at here is going to be Josh Hoover, quarterback at TCU. I think he's over 24.5 fantasy score. But before I get into the play itself, I do want to mention DailyGrind Fantasy, you guys, the DFS optimizer research betting tool that I do use on a regular basis. You can see here at the time of me recording this video on Friday night, we got Ashton Jainty, 61.93% odds to hit, you guys, because normal major sports books don't have fantasy score odds. And you can see here on FanDuel, given his rushing attempts, rushing yards, and things like that, his fantasy score line essentially would be on FanDuel at 27.7. It's at 32.5 on PrizePicks, giving us a discrepancy, giving us a 61.93% odds to hit. Whatever sports you play on PrizePicks, underdog, parlay play, better picks, dabble, sleeper, DFS optimizer on DailyGrind Fantasy has it all for you guys. Link in the description below. You can use promo code TUFF for 25% off your first month at DG Fantasy. But let's get into it, you guys. Josh Hoover over 24.5 fantasy is the first play. Taking a look at this matchup. Matchup should be super exciting, right? I think when we talk about teams versus Texas Tech, and the offenses versus Texas Tech, I mean, the weather, I wanted to actually look up the weather here specifically. I know that there's going to be a little bit of rain in the area, but I don't think it should be too much of a factor here. It's essentially affecting, it's going to be very warm. Saturday, sunless, rain possible next week. Not really sure why there's rain, but again, it's looking like it's going to be, weather's not going to be a factor at all. But like I said, looking at this matchup, 66 game total, you guys, 66. And TCU is going to be 6.5 point favorites here at home, 66 game total. I think this could absolutely smash 66, by the way. But taking a look at this, Texas Tech, obviously they allowed the most fantasy points to the quarterback position going back to last couple seasons because of the way their Texas Tech offense runs. It does allow not that they have a great defense, but it does allow teams to kind of have to keep the pace with them. Obviously Texas Tech air raid offense here, but 31.6 fantasy points per game is what they are allowing to opposing quarterbacks this season. We look at Josh Hoover. He is over this line in 7 games, has had 36, 32, 26, and 29 fantasy points in so far this season. If we go back to last season when he got the starting job, he had 3 games as well, over 35 plus fantasy points, kind of showing and giving us kind of that upside that he does have as a quarterback, right? But currently, over 1.5 passing touchdowns for Josh Hoover is sitting at minus 310. And Texas Tech ranked 121st in the country in passing touchdowns against, and so pretty much a lock, I would say, minus 310 for college football. Again, nothing's a lock, but very certain that he should get 2 passing touchdowns in this one. This season, when he throws at least 2 passing touchdowns, he's had a floor of essentially 12.9 fantasy points, but 18.7 more specifically, and then has had 26 plus fantasy points in every single game that he's thrown 3 passing touchdowns. But like I said, this matchup is just too good to ignore. This is just some quarterbacks in their fantasy score totals versus Texas Tech this season. Sawyer Robinson last week put up 32.6. Earlier this season, again, this is the course of the whole season, Brendan Sorsby versus Texas Tech put up 40.2. Just keep in mind that these are quarterbacks, right? John Mateer versus Texas Tech put up 36.3. And then Maverick McIver, who actually plays quarterback at Abilene Christian, which is not even a Power 6, Power 5 school, he put up 35.4. So we've seen 4 different quarterbacks already to go for 30 fantasy points against Texas Tech. We get Josh Hoover. We know TCU loves to throw the ball. Josh Hoover, I just love this spot for him. I think when I saw the matchup, I was immediately gonna target Josh Hoover in this matchup at home. Should be an absolute shootout here. So again, Josh Hoover over 24.5 fantasies, the first play. Second play, I gotta just go with my guy that we've been profitable with all season long. It's gonna be Shedeur Sanders over 23.5 fantasy score. And the key for me when it comes to Shedeur is he's at home. He's at home in what should be a pretty close game. Colorado 6.5 point at home, 56.5 game total. So we know Colorado's going to be throwing the ball. We know they like to throw the ball already. But specifically, Shedeur Sanders at home is just a monster. You can see in all 4 games this season, all 3 games this season, he's over this line. 24.5, 33.2, and 37.5, all at home. We go back to last season, or specifically, let's just go back to over the course of his last 10 games. When he does play, let me filter this too. When he does play at home, Kansas State, I don't know why it's showing 21.52. Is that what he finished with against Kansas State? Hold on. Oh, KSU. I finished with 24.5. I think that's off. That's actually off on on Outlier. Again, he's literally gone over this line in every game except for Oregon State in his career at Washington, in his career at Colorado. Like, this has an elite hit rate. You can see he's averaging 29.58 fantasy, and again, this is wrong, but it actually should be close to 30. He's actually averaging 30 fantasy points at home since he's been at Colorado, right? We know they love to throw the ball. 6.5 point underdogs. We look at, Cincinnati opponents versus Cincinnati. Some decent quarterbacks have had decent lines against them. We saw UCF quarterback start his first kind of game of the season, had 20.7 fantasy against Cincinnati, Ja'Cory Brown. We've also seen earlier this season, who's this, Brehen Morton. He had a 22.6 fantasy against Cincinnati. And then we've also seen, where are we going with this? Who's this? Eli Holstein against Cincinnati. He put up 29.7. So, it's, again, for Shedeur at home, 6.5 point underdogs in what should be a close game. With, again, Cincinnati's a good team. They should be trailing, or this game should just remain super competitive. I see no reason for Shedeur to not be able to clear this line. I mean, we look at the odds for Shedeur on his passing touchdowns, which again is key here. Hold on, let me go to his passing touchdowns real quick. Again, I try to make these videos in one shot. I don't really try to edit these. Passing touchdowns, it's listed at 2.5, and it's like literally, it's not even plus money at 2.5, right? Which is interesting, which is why I'm surprised his fantasy score line is at 23.5. If we go to over 1.5 passing touchdowns, just for him to throw 2 passing touchdowns in this one, it's minus 425 on DraftKings, you guys. Great spot for Shedeur, not overthinking this one either. 2 player props for this YouTube video. Hoover, Sanders, both over their fantasy score lines. Please check out all the links in the description below. Hit that subscribe button, and as always, let's cash.